Story 1. I've been working as a production assistant for outdoor sports television for about 2 years now. It's actually a pretty cool job. I get to travel to different lakes and rivers, help set up camera equipment, and watch professional anglers do their thing. Most of the time, it's peaceful work in beautiful locations. Last month, we were filming at Cedar Lake State Park for an episode of Championship Base, a tournament fishing show that airs on the Outdoor Sports Network. The location was perfect crystal clear water, plenty of fish, and scenic mountain views in the background. We had all the necessary permits from the Park Service and had been filming there for 3 days without any issues. I was operating one of the remote cameras positioned along the shoreline, while our host, a professional angler who's been doing this for 15 years, worked his way along the eastern bank. The morning had been productive. He'd already caught and released several nice bass, all while explaining his techniques to the camera. Around 11 a.m., he hooked into something big. His rod bent nearly in half, and he started working the fish with the kind of skill that comes from decades of experience. I zoomed in to capture the action as he carefully played the bass, keeping steady pressure while letting it run when it needed to. That's when I noticed a woman approaching from the hiking trail. She was probably in her 40s, wearing what looked like handmade clothes covered in nature symbols, and carrying a large canvas tote bag. At first, I thought she was just another park visitor curious about the filming. She stood about 20 feet away, watching intently as our host continued to work the fish. I could tell it was a trophy-sized bass, probably 5 or 6 pounds, and he was being extra careful not to stress it more than necessary. "Karen, excuse me. What do you think you're doing to that poor creature?" Our host glanced over but stayed focused on the fish. He was at a critical point in the fight and couldn't afford to lose concentration. Host, "Just fishing." "Ma'am, catch and release." "Karen, catch and release. You're traumatizing that innocent being for your own entertainment." I kept filming, thinking this might just be a brief interruption. Our host was used to dealing with curious onlookers and usually handled them diplomatically. "Host, I understand your concern, but I practice ethical fishing. The fish will be released unharmed." "Karen, unharmed? You've stabbed it in the mouth with a metal hook. You're torturing a sentient creature." The fish made another run, and our host had to focus entirely on maintaining the right amount of pressure. This was clearly a fish of a lifetime, and he was determined to land it safely. "Karen, I can feel its pain. Its spiritual energy is crying out in agony." She started walking closer to the water's edge, and I began to worry about where this was heading. "Ma'am, we're filming a television show here. Could you please keep your voice down?" "Karen, I don't care what you're filming. This is spiritual harassment of aquatic life, and I won't stand for it." Our host finally got the bass close to shore. It was absolutely massive, easily 6 pounds, and probably the biggest fish he'd caught all season. He was reaching for his net when Karen made her move. She pulled a pair of scissors out of her tote bag and rushed toward the water. "Karen, I'm going to liberate this poor creature from its torment." Before anyone could stop her, she grabbed his fishing line about 3 feet above the water and cut it with the scissors. The big bass immediately swam away, taking the hook with it. Our host just stared at her in shock. "Host, did you cut my line?" "Karen, I freed that beautiful soul from your torture device. Fish have feelings too, and that one was in excruciating emotional pain." "Host, ma'am, that fish is now swimming around with a hook in its mouth because you prevented me from removing it safely." That hadn't occurred to Karen. Her righteous expression faltered for a moment. "Karen, well, the hook will dissolve eventually. At least it's free from your spiritual harassment." She was still holding the scissors and gesturing wildly when her foot slipped on the muddy bank. She windmilled her arms, trying to catch her balance, but gravity won. Karen tumbled backward and landed in about 2 feet of lake water with a tremendous splash. The irony wasn't lost on me in her attempt to save fish from harassment. She just created a massive disturbance in their habitat. "Host, are you okay?" Karen struggled to her feet, soaking wet and covered in lake mud. Her nature symbol clothes were plastered to her body, and her canvas bag was floating nearby. Karen, this is all your fault. If you weren't abusing innocent fish, none of this would have happened. Our director, who had been watching from the production tent, came jogging over with our permits and paperwork. Director, ma'am, what you just did constitutes interference with a permitted activity and destruction of property. Karen, I was protecting a defenseless creature from torture. That's not a crime. Director, actually, it is. We have all the proper permits to film here, and you just sabotaged our production. At this point, park rangers who had heard the commotion started approaching. Our production had been coordinating with them all week, so they knew exactly what we were doing there. Ranger, what's the situation here? Our director explained what had happened while I kept the camera rolling. The whole interaction was being captured in high definition. Director, she cut our host's fishing line while he was fighting a fish, claiming she was protecting it from spiritual harm. Karen, that's exactly right. Fishing is barbaric and traumatic for the fish. Someone had to take a stand. Ranger, ma'am, fishing is a legal activity in this park with the proper license. Do you have a fishing license? Karen, I don't need a license. I wasn't fishing. I was performing a rescue operation. Ranger, you interfered with legal fishing activities and destroyed private property. That's a violation of park regulations. Karen, this is discrimination against people who care about animal welfare. I'm being persecuted for my spiritual beliefs. The ranger wasn't buying it. He'd seen plenty of entitled visitors over the years. Ranger, ma'am, I need to see some identification. You're being cited for interference with permitted activities and destruction of property. Karen, you can't cite me for helping innocent creatures. This is a public park. Ranger, being a public park doesn't mean you can interfere with legal activities or destroy other people's property. As the ranger was writing the citation, our host was examining his equipment. The fishing line she'd cut was expensive tournament-grade material, and she'd also damaged his lure. Host, that was a $50 lure she just cost me, plus the line, and we'll never know how big that base actually was. Karen, material possessions don't matter when innocent lives are at stake. That fish's emotional well-being is worth more than your stupid lure. Ranger, ma'am, you're also being banned from the park for 30 days. If you return during that time, you'll be arrested for trespassing. Karen, this is outrageous. I'm the victim here. I was trying to prevent fish torture. She was still dripping wet and covered in mud, which made her indignant protests even more absurd. Our director had an idea that would make this whole incident worthwhile. Director, do you mind if we use this footage in our show? This could be an interesting segment about the different perspectives people have on fishing. Karen, absolutely not. You don't have my permission to broadcast this. Director, actually, you're in a public place where we have filming permits. We don't need your permission. The episode aired 3 months later with the segment titled, When Good Intentions Go Wrong. Karen's dramatic fish rescue attempt, complete with her tumble into the lake, became an internet sensation. The outdoor sports community had a field day with her claims about fish feelings and spiritual harassment. Our host used the incident as a teaching moment, explaining how catch and release fishing actually helps conservation efforts and how cutting a line leaves fish with hooks that are much harder to remove than if they're landed properly. Karen ended up paying fines totaling over $200 and was banned from 3 different state parks after similar incidents. Apparently, her fish liberation campaign extended beyond just our filming location. The whole experience taught me that no matter how remote or peaceful your work location seems, there's always a chance someone will show up to make things interesting. At least this time, it made for good television. Story 2. I've been working as a hairstylist at Glamour Salon for 9 years, and I thought I'd seen every kind of difficult client. Bridezillas, picky teenagers, men who want just a trim, but hate everything you do. I've handled them all. But what happened last Saturday afternoon was beyond anything I could have imagined. It was around 2 p.m., and the salon was buzzing with typical weekend activity. I was working on a 17-year-old client who was getting highlights for her senior prom. Her name was Emma, and she was so excited about the whole process. It was her first time getting professional highlights, and she'd saved up money from her part-time job to afford it. Emma, I can't believe I'm finally doing this. My friends are going to freak out. Me, you picked a great color combination. These caramel highlights are going to look amazing with your natural brown hair. We'd been working for about an hour, and I was carefully sectioning and applying the bleach to create a natural, sun-kissed look. Emma was chatting nervously about prom dresses and her date, the way excited teenagers do. At the station next to us, my colleague was working on another client, a woman in her 50s who'd been complaining about everything since she walked in. She'd already changed her mind about the color twice and had been making snide comments about the salon's music, temperature, and even the magazines. Karen, this is taking forever. How long does it take to do a simple color touch-up? Stylist 2, we're almost finished with the processing time. Just a few more minutes. Karen, I have places to be. Some of us have important things to do. I was focused on Emma's hair, carefully weaving highlights through the top sections, when I noticed Karen getting up from her chair. Karen, excuse me, what are you doing to that girl's hair? Me, I'm giving her highlights. Is there something I can help you with? Karen, those look completely uneven. You're ruining her hair. Emma looked confused and a little worried. Emma, are they really uneven? Me, no, sweetie, they look perfect. The highlights are supposed to have a natural, random pattern. Karen, that's not natural. It looks sloppy. I tried to ignore Karen and continue working, but she kept watching and making comments. Karen, I can't believe you people call yourselves professionals. That poor girl is going to look ridiculous. Me, ma'am, I've been doing this for 9 years. The highlights look exactly as they should. Karen, 9 years. I've been doing my own hair for 25 years. That should have been my first warning sign, but I was too focused on Emma's hair to pay attention to the red flags. I was in the middle of applying bleach to a delicate section near Emma's face when suddenly Karen appeared right behind me. Karen, here, let me show you how it's done. Before I could react, Karen grabbed a pair of scissors from my station and started cutting Emma's hair. Me, stop. What are you doing? Karen, I'm fixing your mistakes. These pieces are way too long. Emma screamed as chunks of her hair fell to the floor. Karen had cut off about 3 inches from several highlighted sections that weren't even finished processing yet. Emma, my hair. Oh my God, my hair. Me, put those scissors down right now. Karen, I'm just helping. This girl doesn't deserve to look like a mess for her prom. Emma was crying hysterically, touching the uneven chunks where Karen had cut her hair. The highlights were only half processed, so some sections were orange and others were still brown. Me, you just destroyed a 17-year-old's hair. What is wrong with you? Karen, I saved her from looking ridiculous. You should be thanking me. The entire salon had stopped what they were doing to stare at the chaos. Other clients were pulling out their phones to record, and my manager was rushing over. Manager, what happened here? Karen, I fixed this incompetent stylist work. The girl's hair was completely uneven. Emma, she cut my hair. I didn't ask her to touch me. Manager, ma'am, you cannot touch another client or use our equipment. Karen, equipment. These are just scissors. I was helping. Emma's mother, who had been waiting in the reception area, came running over when she heard the screaming. Mother, what did you do to my daughter? Karen, I improved her hair. You should pay me instead of this amateur. Mother, you're insane. That's assault. Emma was sobbing, looking at herself in the mirror. Half her hair was orange from the unfinished highlights, and the other half had jagged, uneven cuts where Karen had randomly snipped pieces. Emma, my prom is next weekend. How am I supposed to fix this? Karen, it'll grow back. Stop being so dramatic. Me. I am so sorry, Emma. We're going to fix this, I promise. The manager called the police while I tried to comfort Emma and assess the damage. Karen had cut off several highlighted sections completely, leaving some areas much shorter than others. Karen, this is ridiculous. I was just trying to help. Client recording. Lady, you just assaulted a teenager with scissors. Karen, it's not assault. It's a public service. When the police arrived, they found Karen still arguing with everyone about how she'd improved Emma's hair. The officers couldn't believe what they were hearing. Officer, ma'am, you cut another person's hair without permission? Karen, I fixed a bad haircut. That stylist was ruining this poor girl. Officer, that's assault with a weapon. Those scissors are considered a weapon. Karen, a weapon? They're just hair scissors. Multiple clients had recorded the entire incident on their phones. One video, posted to social media by a client who'd been getting her nails done, went viral within hours. The caption read, "Scissor Psycho Attacks Teen at Salon." The video showed Karen grabbing the scissors and cutting Emma's hair while she screamed, followed by Karen's unhinged rants about helping and fixing the situation. Karen was arrested and charged with assault with a weapon and vandalism. The salon pressed charges, and Emma's family filed a civil lawsuit for emotional distress and the cost of fixing her hair. We ended up closing the salon for the rest of the day to focus on Emma. It took 4 hours and 2 other stylists to salvage her hair. We had to cut it much shorter than planned and do a color correction to even out the highlights. Emma, it's not what I wanted, but at least I don't look like I stuck my finger in an electrical socket. The salon covered all the costs and gave Emma a full refund, plus free touch-ups for the next 6 months. Her prom photos turned out beautiful, and the shorter style actually suited her face perfectly. Karen's mugshot and the viral video followed her everywhere. The video had been viewed over 2 million times, with comments calling her everything from scissor psycho to hair horror Karen. She tried to justify her actions in interviews, claiming she was a hair expert and that she'd saved Emma from a bad haircut. But the evidence was clear. She'd assaulted a minor with scissors and destroyed her hair. The court ordered Karen to pay for Emma's hair repair costs, plus damages for emotional distress. She was also banned from every salon in the city. Emma graduated with confidence and went on to become a cosmetology student herself, inspired by how our team rallied to help her. Karen became a cautionary tale about what happens when entitlement meets scissors. Story 3. I've been working as a bank teller at First National for 6 years now, and I thought I'd seen every possible way customers could lose their minds over waiting in line. People get impatient about everything: cashing checks, making deposits, even just asking questions. But I never imagined someone would try to manipulate the entire banking system just to avoid waiting their turn. I started working here right after college when I needed a stable job with benefits. The work isn't glamorous, but I genuinely like helping people with their financial needs. Most customers are reasonable, even when they're stressed about money. But every now and then, you get someone who thinks their time is more valuable than everyone else's. Last Friday was one of those days where everything seemed to go wrong. Our computer system had been running slowly all morning, which meant every transaction was taking twice as long as usual. By lunchtime, we had a line of about 15 people snaking through the lobby. I was helping an elderly gentleman with a complex deposit when this woman walked in and immediately started huffing loudly about the wait. She was dressed in expensive clothes and kept checking her phone like she was running late for something important. After about 2 minutes of standing in line, she marched up to my window while I was still helping the elderly customer. "Karen, excuse me, I need to make a quick withdrawal. This will only take a second." "Me, I'll be happy to help you once I finish with this customer. You can wait in line and I'll call you when it's your turn." "Karen, I don't have time to wait in line. I'm a very important person with important business to attend to." The elderly gentleman looked at her with raised eyebrows. Other customers in line were starting to pay attention to the commotion. Me? I understand you're in a hurry, but I need to serve customers in the order they arrived. It should only be about 10 more minutes. Karen, 10 minutes. That's completely unacceptable. Don't you know who I am? Me? I'm sorry, but regardless of who you are, everyone needs to wait their turn. Karen, this is ridiculous. I shouldn't have to wait behind all these people for a simple transaction. My supervisor heard the raised voices and came over to see what was happening. Supervisor, is there a problem here? Karen, yes, there's a problem. Your teller is refusing to help me because she wants me to wait in this ridiculous line. Supervisor, ma'am, we serve customers in the order they arrive. If you'd like to wait in line, we'll be happy to help you when it's your turn. Karen, I am not waiting in line. I have an appointment in 20 minutes, and this is an emergency. Supervisor, what kind of banking emergency do you have? Karen, I need to withdraw money for a medical emergency. This was obviously not true, since she just said she had an appointment, but my supervisor remained professional. Supervisor, if this is truly an emergency, I can have someone help you as soon as we finish with current customers. But you'll still need to wait a few minutes. Karen, a few minutes? I need help right now. She stormed away from the counter and started pacing around the lobby, muttering loudly about poor customer service and incompetent employees. The other customers were getting annoyed with her attitude. After about 5 more minutes of pacing and complaining, Karen suddenly walked over to the wall near the entrance and pulled the fire alarm. The piercing alarm immediately filled the building, and our emergency procedures kicked in automatically. Everyone had to evacuate the building immediately, customers, staff, everyone. As we were all standing outside in the parking lot, Karen pushed her way to the front of the crowd near the door. Karen, well, I guess we'll all have to start over when we go back in. I'll make sure I'm first this time. My supervisor stared at her in disbelief. Supervisor, did you just pull the fire alarm? Karen, I don't know what you're talking about. There must have been a real emergency. But the fire department had already arrived and was checking the building. The fire chief came out after a few minutes. Fire chief, false alarm. Someone pulled the manual alarm, but there's no fire or emergency. He looked around at all of us standing in the parking lot. Fire chief, anyone know who pulled the alarm? Several customers immediately pointed at Karen. Apparently, multiple people had seen her do it. Customer 1, that lady in the blue dress pulled it. I saw her walk right over and yank it down. Customer 2, yeah, she was complaining about waiting in line and said something about starting over. Karen's face went white. Karen, that's not. I was just. There might have been smoke. Fire chief, ma'am, were you the one who activated the alarm? Karen, I thought I smelled something burning. I was protecting everyone. Fire chief, there's no evidence of any fire or smoke. Pulling a false fire alarm is a serious crime. The police arrived shortly after and took statements from witnesses. Multiple customers confirmed that Karen had pulled the alarm after complaining about waiting in line. Officer Williams looked at the surveillance footage from our outdoor cameras, which clearly showed Karen walking directly to the alarm and pulling it. Officer Williams, ma'am, you're under arrest for filing a false emergency report and interfering with emergency services. Karen, this is insane. I was trying to help. Officer Williams, help with what? Getting to the front of the line. As they were putting her in handcuffs, Karen started yelling about how this was all a misunderstanding and demanding to speak to the bank president. Karen, you people are going to regret this. I'm a valued customer. I have accounts here. My supervisor pulled out her phone and started typing. Supervisor, not anymore, you don't. After everyone gave their statements, we were finally allowed back in the building. The whole process took over an hour, which meant everyone's day was completely disrupted because one person couldn't wait 10 minutes. My supervisor called me into her office later that afternoon. Supervisor, I've closed all of Karen's accounts and flagged her in our system. She's banned from all branches in our network. Me, can you do that? Supervisor, pulling a fire alarm and disrupting business operations. Absolutely. She endangered everyone here and wasted emergency resources. The story got even better a few days later when we found out Karen had been charged with multiple crimes: false reporting, interfering with emergency services, and endangering public safety. The fines totaled over $2,000. But the best part was that she never got to make her withdrawal. Since her accounts were closed, she had to go to a different bank entirely to access her money. Instead of waiting 10 minutes in line, her brilliant plan cost her 2 hours of paperwork, thousands in fines, and a hassle of switching banks. Sometimes people create consequences so much worse than the minor inconvenience they were trying to avoid. Karen's 10-minute wait became a months-long legal nightmare, all because she thought she was too important to follow the same rules as everyone else. Story 4. I've been volunteering at our local food bank every Saturday for 3 years now. After my early retirement from teaching, I wanted to give back to the community that had supported me throughout my career. The food bank serves hundreds of families each week, providing groceries to people struggling to make ends meet. It's hard work, but seeing the gratitude on people's faces when they receive help makes every hour worthwhile. Our food bank operates on a simple system. Families register with proof of need and identification, then receive a weekly allocation of groceries based on their household size. We get donations from grocery stores, churches, and community drives. Most of our clients are working families, elderly people on fixed incomes, or individuals facing temporary hardships. Everyone we serve treats the volunteers with respect and appreciation. The work isn't glamorous. We sort donations, stock shelves, and help families select groceries within their allotments. Most days are routine, but occasionally we deal with people who don't understand our policies or become frustrated with a limited selection. I've learned to be patient and explain our procedures clearly. Last Saturday was our monthly community outreach day, where we set up distribution tables in the park to reach people who might not know about our services. We had several volunteers helping families register and receive groceries. A local news crew was also there filming a positive story about community support during difficult times. Around noon, I noticed a well-dressed woman approaching our tables. She was wearing expensive clothes and jewelry, driving a luxury car, and didn't appear to fit the profile of our typical clients. She walked up to the registration table where my colleague was helping other families. Karen, I'm here to get some groceries. I need the organic section. Volunteer, hello, we'd be happy to help you. Do you have identification and documentation showing your need for food assistance? Karen, I don't need to prove anything to you. I heard you were giving away free food, and I want the good stuff. Where are your organic vegetables and free-range chicken? The volunteer explained our registration process and the types of food we typically distribute. Most of our donations are standard grocery items: canned goods, pasta, bread, and whatever produce local stores donate. Volunteer, we ask all our clients to register first. It helps us track our distribution and ensure we're serving people who truly need assistance. Karen, that's ridiculous. I shouldn't have to jump through hoops for free food. I want to see your selection first so I can pick out the quality items. I walked over to help explain our procedures. She was getting louder, and other families were starting to stare. Me, ma'am, we're happy to help you if you qualify for our services. Our registration process is simple and confidential. Karen, I don't want your processed junk food. Don't you have anything organic? Poor people deserve quality food too, not this cheap garbage. She was pointing at our tables of donations with obvious disgust. These were perfectly good groceries that local stores had donated, and families were grateful to receive them. We distribute whatever food is donated to us. Most of our clients are thankful for any help they can get. Karen, well, I'm not most clients. I have standards. I'm not feeding my family preservatives and chemicals just because it's free. Other families in mine were looking uncomfortable. Many of them were working parents who genuinely needed assistance, and were embarrassed by her outburst. Me. If our available food doesn't meet your needs, perhaps you could consider shopping at a grocery store that carries the organic products you prefer. Karen, are you telling me to leave? That's discrimination. You can't pick and choose who gets help based on their food preferences. She was practically screaming now. The news crew had noticed the commotion and started filming from a distance. Karen, I know my rights. You can't deny me free food because I want healthy options for my family. Head volunteer, ma'am, we're not denying you anything. We just need you to complete our registration process like everyone else. Karen, I'm not filling out your paperwork. I want to speak to whoever is in charge here. The head volunteer tried to explain that she was the person in charge, but Karen wasn't listening. She was staring at our food tables with increasing frustration. Karen, this is unacceptable. You're supposed to be helping people, not giving them processed garbage. That's when she completely lost control. She grabbed the edge of our main distribution table and flipped it over. Canned goods, bread, and fresh produce scattered across the ground. Families with children backed away in shock. Karen, poor people deserve quality too. You're all just perpetuating the cycle of poverty by giving out this junk. The news crew was now openly filming her tantrum. She was standing in the middle of scattered groceries, screaming about organic food standards and discrimination. Me, ma'am, you need to leave immediately. You've just destroyed food that was meant for families in need. Karen, I'm not leaving until you get me some decent food. This is a public park, and I have every right to be here. Park security arrived within minutes, having been called by other volunteers. They found her still ranting about food quality while standing surrounded by the groceries she had scattered. Security officer, ma'am, you need to leave the park immediately. You're disturbing a community event and destroying property. Karen, these people are discriminating against me because I want healthy food for my family. This is a violation of my civil rights. The security officer helped us clean up the scattered groceries while explaining to her that she was trespassing and disrupting a permitted community event. Karen, I'm going to sue this entire organization. You can't treat people like this just because they have standards. As she was being escorted away, the news crew captured her final outburst about organic food rights and discrimination. Several families who had witnessed the incident gave interviews about what they had seen. The news story aired that evening with the headline, "Woman Disrupts Food Bank Over Organic Food Demands." The footage clearly showed her flipping the table and screaming, while families with children watched in shock. Within hours, the video had been shared thousands of times on social media. People were outraged that someone would disrupt a food bank distribution and demand special treatment, while genuinely needy families waited in line. Internet users quickly identified her from the news footage and her license plate, which was visible in the background. Her social media profiles showed a lifestyle of expensive vacations and luxury purchases, making her demand for free organic food even more outrageous. The Reddit thread about the incident reached the front page within a day. Comments poured in from people sharing their own experiences with entitled individuals at charitable events. Her employer was tagged in multiple posts, and local community groups shared her photo as someone banned from their events. She tried to defend herself on social media, claiming she was advocating for healthy food access for low-income families. But her own post about expensive restaurants and organic grocery shopping made her arguments ring hollow. Several news outlets picked up the story as an example of entitlement and abuse of charitable services. The food bank received dozens of donations in response to the incident, with many donors specifically mentioning they wanted to help after seeing how she had treated the volunteers. We never saw her again at any of our distributions. Word spread quickly through the local charitable community, and she was effectively banned from multiple organizations after the incident. The families who witnessed her outburst still talk about it during their visits. Many expressed gratitude that volunteers are willing to deal with difficult people to keep the food bank running. The incident reminded everyone why we have registration procedures and why volunteers deserve respect and appreciation. The scattered groceries were mostly salvageable, but the memory of someone attacking a charitable service while demanding special treatment stayed with all of us. It reinforced why we do this work, to help people who truly appreciate assistance during difficult times. Story 5. I've been working night shift hotel security for 4 years, and I thought I'd seen everything. Last Tuesday around 10:30, our front desk called with the strangest complaint I'd ever heard. Manager, we're getting multiple reports about someone misusing the elevator on the 7th floor. Can you check it out? Me, what kind of misuse? Manager, apparently a guest is stopping it on every floor repeatedly and making other passengers uncomfortable. I took the stairs up and positioned myself near the elevator area. When the doors opened, a woman in her 50s stepped out, followed by a clearly frustrated young couple. Karen, well, that was disappointing. I was hoping for more interesting company by now. The couple hurried away without responding. Karen noticed me standing there. Karen, finally, someone who works here. I need to file a complaint about the quality of guests in this elevator. Me, what seems to be the problem? Karen, I'm trying to get to the 15th floor, but I keep getting stuck with these dreadful people who have nothing interesting to say. Me, are other guests bothering you? Karen, they're boring me to death. I've been stopping on every floor hoping some more stimulating company would join us, but it's just been one disappointment after another. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was actually hijacking the elevator because she didn't like her fellow passengers. Me, ma'am, the elevator is for transportation, not socializing. Other guests have complained about delays. Karen, those people have no appreciation for good conversation. I'm simply trying to optimize my elevator experience by finding more suitable companions. The elevator dinged and an elderly gentleman stepped out, looking irritated. Elderly man, this woman just made us stop on every single floor from the 3rd to the 7th, claiming she was waiting for better people to join us. Karen, I was being honest about my expectations. There's nothing wrong with wanting quality company during vertical transportation. Me, ma'am, you can't stop the elevator on every floor just because you don't like the other passengers. Karen, why not? I'm paying just as much as anyone else. If anything, I should have priority access to choose my elevator companions. Another couple approached, saw Karen, and decided to take the stairs instead. Karen, see? Even they recognize that elevator etiquette is important. I called for the manager while Karen pressed the elevator button again. When it opened, there was a businessman inside who immediately looked annoyed. Karen, perfect, a professional gentleman. This should be much more stimulating. She stepped in and started interrogating the poor man about his occupation. 5 minutes later, he practically ran out when the doors opened again. Karen, another dud. Do you people screen your guests at all? The manager arrived and I explained the situation. Manager, ma'am, we've received 4 separate complaints about your behavior. You're disrupting other guests' ability to use the elevator normally. Karen, I'm simply trying to create a more refined atmosphere in this establishment. Manager, I'm afraid we're going to have to ask you to find alternative accommodations. You have 30 minutes to pack and check out. Karen, this is discrimination. I demand to speak to your corporate office. Manager, the decision stands. Security will escort you to collect your belongings. At 11:45 p.m., Karen was standing on the sidewalk with her luggage, calling motels to find a room. She'd been evicted for treating the elevator like a social networking event. The next morning, she posted a lengthy online review complaining about elitist elevator policies and discrimination against guests seeking quality social interactions. The responses from other travelers were pretty entertaining. Most couldn't believe someone would actually elevator shop for conversation partners. Sometimes the entitlement manifests in the most bizarre ways imaginable.